it's different. It's unique. And if you go into it just thinking it's another film,
No.
it kind of isn't.
So yeah, I want to flip this on you a bit. That what was it like unpacking in your first feature as editor and DOP, both those roles? What was it like suddenly coming in and trying to play catch up? Because that's not something I would like to do. Like just go, whoa, I've got this a screenplay adaptation. Then I've got to look at the book. Then you've got this plans for how it can be shot, but the plans aren't very good so far. We really didn't know, because I should say this has never been done before, and this man here basically was a big part of planning how to put it together. And we did this, Gil, you and me primarily were working out, well, how would you do this? So what was that like?
Well, geez, I had done a bit of advertising stuff, bit of music videos, shorts, sort of some decently budgeted shorts, like quite, above just get a few mates together and shoot in the backyard. And undertaking, this being my first feature as DOP, editor, co-producer, it did evolve, because I didn't come on board for those three things. I came on board to assist in really sort of data wrangling and recording the stuff we were going to do virtually. And we went through every sort of option to figure out how we're best going to do this.
I remember that.
We started off with, we went through every option. We went Messenger, video call, Google Teams, Zoom, Skype, rubbish.
Skype still existed then, that's the thing.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
It's gone now.
Life size.
Which
are fantastic. Their quality is great. It glitches a lot less than all the other ones we tested, but the functionality was just a little bit, it didn't work for us. We went through all the different ways of virtually sort of shooting via tablets, mobile phones, laptops. We did have a couple of second units in different countries.
Yeah,
we had Nutty in Israel and Queensland.
Yep, we had some
Matt.
cameramen in China and India.
There's so many.
Sorry,
See, this
Italy
is a
as
problem
well.
now.
Yeah,
We're starting talking about people who were essentially our second unit.
Yeah.
If we don't mention them all, that's a
true.
little bit disrespectful. So there was a lot, okay? There was a lot.
Yeah.
So I came on board mainly to assist in facilitating that. And then I became what I am now from that, drawing on all my past experience.
I'll put in context that Gil and his brother Oren Ben Moshe and myself, we're all actors. Then I come from also the writing world, but we are artistic creatives. So that was the pressure on you. You were the only one tech savvy to figure out a lot of the logistics of this. And do you remember the night before? I seem to recall that if I'm
3 a.m. I think it was going. We've made this decision. We're going in this direction for our entire production, but are we sure? Have we doomed ourselves before the first scene of the first shoot?
I can't even remember what the problem was, but I remember it was like 2 a.m. We were like, we don't think we can now do this, and no one else knew. I don't think everyone was probably asleep.
We were trying to keep it on the down low, because if you can solve stuff, and I think that's a good thing for people, if you can solve issues without bringing the rest of the team into it, not that you're trying to hide it, but to avoid people unnecessarily worrying about issues that, especially if it doesn't affect them. Like if there's a catering issue, if I don't get my coffee in the morning, that's it, go home, bye-bye, see you later. But like, if it's, you know, if there's a catering issue, then does the entire team need to know about that? Not
No.
really.
No.
A bad example, but like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and then I remember we just solved it by a miracle. It was like, oh wait, what if we do that? And then I remember we each respectively, I think, just said, mate, I'm crashing. I rang you, you rang me. And we got up about 7. I think it was like we were shooting in 7 a.m. I think it was. So we were doing Israel and Australia, Sydney. Yeah, it was Gil and Leital Luzon in Tel Aviv.
Who plays
And
Esther.
And then there was Andre Doc Williams, who was a guy in Rochester, New York. So there was all these time zones. So I think it was like 4 hours later we just began, and no one knew. Holy shit! We nearly we nearly had no production.
And turned out that concern wasn't. I wouldn't say it wasn't warranted, but didn't. It wasn't. That was not of the plethora of issues we had. That wasn't one of them.
Well, I remember what it was we did all this pre-testing. How would you do this? And without giving it away with the way we've shot this, they've tried this a few times, but no one's really cracked how to present it. And some people, some actors I tried to get here, we got good results around the world with really good actors. Okay, really quite established actors. But in Australia, I had a few say to me, oh no, I wouldn't do that style because other people have tried that and it turned out like a joke. And they were right. We looked at them.
Oh,
so
yeah.
we found it a way. It seems easy once you've done it. It seems like, well, what we're worried about, but it's hard to get that presentation right. Remember that? So, okay. So then moving forward from that, how did you find when you began? Like this was not the orthodox production to begin as DOP, was it?
No. I think early on, we discovered the epicness of what we were undertaking. We sort of knew that from day one, but we were just like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work in post, you know, because we're able to be in other countries. You're able to direct the actors
remotely often.
Remotely.
Yeah, so I should clarify, we shot 3 states here in Australia, which we could shoot mostly in person.
Yeah.
Then we shot remotely around the world because of lockdowns. We couldn't get to a lot of those places.
Yeah.
And when we had teams of, so you were often directing, directing as in the camera department. You were director of photography. So you were directing multiple teams, and sometimes I remember, sometimes we had like 3 locations. Do you remember that? Might have been like America, then one state in Australia, and then another state in Australia. So you were having to direct different camera teams. Now, when I say camera teams, sometimes it was just one actor with their technology. Yeah. Other times it was actually a crew.
Yeah.
And so that, in a way, it could seem easier, and then other ways it was. Yeah. And you were also the recordist. It all, right?
To make sure we're getting all our virtual streams, video streams from all these countries. Yeah, because as you said, we could be shooting in Sydney and Israel and New York City, which we did at once. And that was an undertaking. But being able to see, even though as we were doing it, we were like, I think we're creating something pretty epic here, but it's going to take a bit of work in post. And wow, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing I was going to say, is that we basically, so I wanted to catch 2020 on camera.
Yeah.
And then dive into it. But the problem with that is you've got a book, okay? So it's fair to say this was published in October 23, 23rd of October 2020.
Right.
Then we went into pre-production. We had a script December 3. So that means, man, I just wrote, I knew and I knew there's a style you can do, so we should also say that 75% of the dialogue was improvised. And one reason for that is we're going to a lot of cultures in the world in this movie. We've got Chinese characters. We've got African American characters. We've got Jewish characters around the world.
Mm.
We've got Italians and so on. So I felt it would be arrogant of me. It's okay to do it in a novel to a degree, but it'd be arrogant of me to say, I know how to write your dialogue. It's too many cultures. So instead of...
So I think that's actually a really good conversation that we should open up to everyone, that the job is of a writer, whether it's in film or the book, is to write, right? Now, but you bring up a valid argument. People who are living, like, we're in Australia here.
Yeah.
Yes, we have some deserts, but say like Africa, right?
Mm.
We can assume, but we don't know the harshness.
No.
Like a desert with no water, there's not much.
Yes.
Like, apart from our assumptions, would you not ask someone who's lived there, hey,
That's right.
could you assist me? You know, and you're talking mainly sort of cultural references, but dialogue, I'm assuming, because people will have the argument of, well, you're the writer, so that's your job to write. And you're like, yeah, but isn't it better for me to be more informed? And
that's right. So
I think people are they're too black and white. Oh, the writer does the writing, so you're palming off your job. Some might say,
yeah, that's right. You could have that view now. There's a couple of things I want to mention. That firstly, when they all improvised, they all got a type of writer credit, like a minor writer credit, but it was called additional dialogue, because I didn't write it, and if you're improvising it in the moment, that's the same as writing it. Do you know what I mean? So they earned those credits, and that's all the main cast got that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is I wanted to mention is that there are no shortcuts in film. This is a twist, and you and I found out, you being the editor, know better than anyone, that when we got to, because you're bypassing the writing process, we got all this footage, and I know quite a few documentary directors.
Yep.
Some of them have taken me into the studio when they're editing, or they've told me about their process.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that there is a way to get all this footage. And remember, we had a version that was 8.5 hours, this movie. Now, it's still epic. It's over 2, but we had an 8.5 hour version. I always knew there was a way to chop it down, but the editing of this took years. And that's so there was no shortcut. Like, I could have written the whole thing and maybe used other writers and all that, and we could have done 100 drafts and started filming 2 years later. But because we sped it up, then in post-production, you have to you pay for it in a good way, but you have to really dig deep. And so you and I were figuring out the story a lot of the times in the edit, but we had so many gems from the actors, but it took a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, variety's great until you love direction 1, direction 2, direction 3, let alone the takes.
Yeah.
So, commit, but then in the nature of the being wary of the actor's time, and we've got a great cast who have great ability, who could have easily said, I don't know who you guys are, or I'm not prepared to sort of come on a project under those conditions.
That's right.
Because we were like, we're humble, we're aspiring. Well, we are filmmakers, but aspiring to do big things. Do you want to come on the journey with us?
Yeah.
There's the odd thing we can offer you, but as opposed to the normal structure,
it's not there.
It's not that.
No.
I
think we were all working out what the style would be as we went. But I'm eternally grateful to yourself and when something begins just on the page, and I can remember when it's just a blank page and I write one sentence and you expand all that. It's amazing when all these great creatives like yourselves and the incredible cast and so on, when they expand it, then it's but especially when this is my debut as a director, then I don't know why everyone took the risk.
I still think about that. The talent and the level that they're at wanted to get involved with us and separately to us, the project, I guess that's a benefit of the book to film adaptation. There was source material. Like normally, if there isn't a book written first, there'll be a treatment and a script, but the book existed and it's got a decent following and there's reviews out there online. So it was a successful entity already. I think that helped. You know what I mean?
Possibly. So wrapping up, how do you want this? How do we want this to be received? Would you say, like, what are we looking?
Well, it's different. It's unique, and if you go into it just thinking it's another film,
no,
it kind of isn't.
It's kind of reflected in the award we won, like best experimental.
Yeah, because we utilize the way people were communicating to tell our story. In the way that the characters communicating with each other was the same way that we were communicating with each other, and you were able to direct them via those means. I was able to make a few adjustments because obviously I'm not there. Like Italy, I wasn't in Italy, but I was able to make the odd adjustments to tell the actors to make a few little adjustments, very basic stuff, but it opened up the world to us.
And I'll also say that it sounds like a compromise, but actually what we could do is, in many cases, make it all about the acting, if you recall, for those scenes. But I should say 75, I think I counted like 71 minutes of this movie is shot by a traditional camera. So it's just it's a real multimedia experience we're presenting here. And I think my goal would be my hope would be that people really just ask questions about what we've been through, but also what we went through in 2020, but also in the relationships we show beyond this era, just things that could have happened at any time period. We're asking a lot of questions, and if they can do that, and it makes them reflect on their lives and so on, then it's a victory.
But the restrictive nature of the way we made our film, it made us more creative. I feel.
I agree.
Because if two people are communicating via online means, whether it's Skype, Zoom, Google Teams, whatever, because they can't leave and visit and they've got to do it online, you wouldn't just have two actors just sitting there looking at a computer. You'd go, okay, how do I get creative? And that was sort of my challenge to how do I add movement and stillness, but it's got to be motivated. Because a lot of people throw that term out there, motivated movement. Well, what is that? And especially if they're talking that way, how do you incorporate that? And I did try to balance that, but I wouldn't have if we didn't shoot it that way. I wouldn't have had that creative journey because that opportunity of that restriction made us think a certain way. So the restriction was a positive in making us think more creatively. And I don't think a lot of people would see it that way, that a restriction can actually be a benefit because you're coming up with solving a problem that can be such a benefit to you and your career and just your life in general, I reckon.
No, I felt that too. And also it was also a product of its time very much, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like we were, besides the restriction you speak about, I think if we were doing this in any other area, we would have been distracted. You know what I mean? We just we were still unlocked. In Australia, the lockdowns went to, I think, mid to late 2021.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Is that a fire alarm? Maybe that's our sign.
I don't know. Maybe they're giving us the wind
Maybe
up,
that's our sign.
Jeez.